Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the simple and AI-powered rewards and recognition platform for employee engagement.
Engaging in a thoughtful and comprehensive discussion about the power of strategic rewards and recognition is of paramount importance. This topic holds immense significance because it unveils the key to unlocking individual and organizational potential by shedding light on the strategic use of rewards and recognition. We gain insights into how they can serve as catalysts for motivation, engagement, and exceptional performance. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another thought-provoking episode of Vantage Influencers Podcast, where we will unravel the undeniable power of strategic rewards and recognition. I'm your host, Sanjeevani Saikia, and today we will be having a conversation with Dedeepya Ajith John, Senior Director, South and Advisory Services, SHRM Asia Pacific and India. Hi, Dedeepya.
Hi, Sanjeevani. Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to wholeheartedly thank you for giving your invaluable time and joining us in today's episode. Before we dive deeper into today's topic, the power of strategic rewards and recognition, could you kindly walk us through your corporate journey so far?
Sure, Sanjeevani. Thank you so much for this opportunity as well. So quickly to talk about my corporate journey, I started off as a HR consultant with Oracle India and Oracle Financials way back in 2006. Worked there for about 2 years, post which I joined SHRM or Society for Human Resource Management as a senior research analyst. This is my 12th year into this organization, and I presently work as Senior Director, South and Advisory. I kind of lead multiple portfolios here in terms of consulting, research, academic alliances, the South India business as well as the Asia Pacific operations. So this is what I do at present out here at SHRM, and I'm based out of Bangalore.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. It has truly been remarkable. So with your permission, can we dive straight into the topic?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah, so the first question I have is that how can strategic rewards and recognition programs enhance employee motivation and engagement within an organization? Since we are very aware of the fact that strategic rewards and recognition programs can play a very vital role in augmenting or bolstering employee engagement. So regarding that, what do you have to say?
What you said is absolutely bang on. It follows a very simple yet a hard-hitting realization to me. The fact that people will always work harder when they know that they are being valued. And here, valued is the key word. And this statement holds good across organizations, across generations, and not just the newer ones, as well as across employee personas. So right now, as we speak, I think the biggest challenge that most of the organizations face is ensuring that their employees are motivated enough, valued enough to be able to perform to their fullest potential, and sometimes also strive to go well and beyond at all times. So while there are a number of enablers to bring in this motivation and engagement, I think there is enough and more research that actually shows a very clear correlation between rewards and recognition strategy to the retention metrics, the productivity metrics, absenteeism, increased trust and happiness. So there's enough and more research around it. To me, it actually follows a very simple organizational behavioral principle that says that positive reinforcement definitely works much better than negative. So being able to promise those rewards and recognition for specific desirable behaviors or actions definitely triggers positive reinforcement and provides a full throttle for employees to push beyond their boundaries and work rather than the negative reinforcement. So this is, in short, I think what you said is bang on to say that strategic R&R intervention, when deployed right, will definitely lead to increased engagement and motivation levels across the organization.
Wonderful. So it's a fact that rewards and recognition program involves a lot of elements. So it is not very easy to, completely make a rewards and recognition program without catering it to the diverse needs of the employees. So what are some key elements to consider when designing a rewards and recognition program to ensure its effectiveness and long-term sustainability? So here the term long-term sustainability is something that we would love to focus on.
Absolutely.
Since we just don't want a rewards and recognition in place, but something that has a long-term impact in an organization.
Absolutely. I think the first step to this, or the most important key element, is that alignment to the organizational values and objectives that will help achieve the desirable behaviors or actions. And it's important for organizations to look at this as a employee value proposition enabler and not as any ad hoc HR intervention. So to me, that's the most important element. Along with that, various other elements like having that right balance between the compensation, the benefits, the learning and growth opportunities, the work-life balance. So what exactly determines the motivation levels for employees is something that we need to cater to. The third one, as you rightly said, is a diverse set of expectations. So while we need to ensure that our R&R strategy is equitable across the organization, I think it's important for us to create those personalizations as well. Understand what are the employee personas that are existing within the organization. What is it that motivates them the best? And accordingly, if we are able to bring in those personalization aspects into our R&R strategy, I think that will help create or build that effectiveness and also create that long-term sustainability. Yet another element that comes to my mind is definitely having that right mix of both instant as well as regular R&R mechanisms that needs to be put in place. And of course, last but not the least, the continued communication. So to me, these are some of the important elements. But if you are talking about sustainability, while it's important to consider all of these elements to create an effective R&R strategy, considering the hybrid workplaces and also the nature of marketplaces today, it's important for our R&R strategy to also be extremely agile in itself. So how effectively we are able to, understand the needs, how needs are changing for the employee personas, and being able to integrate that into the R&R strategy will actually help in long-term sustainability as well. So that's my take on this.
Absolutely. So here again, Dedeepya, I think you would agree with me that individual recognition and team-based recognition is going to be a little different from each other. So what is going to be effective for an individual is not going to be that much effective for an entire team, say for example. So I would love to know your take on how can organizations strike a balance between individual recognition and team-based rewards to encourage both personal achievements and collaboration.
Okay, I think this is a very tricky job for organizations and managers and HR leaders to be able to appreciate both individual and team achievements without causing any resentment or unhealthy competition. So to me, the key is definitely quantification, alignment, and awareness. So when I say quantification, I'm talking about how well are we able to quantify the measurable objectives, or that determines whether an individual or a team gets that reward and recognition. So that is something that needs to be clearly defined. And as I said before, the alignment to the organizational objectives. And last but not the least, the awareness part of it, that how well are your teams and individuals aware of what will help me get the reward and the right recognition for the work that I put in, is something that's very important. Like for example, if you were to take maybe a customer satisfaction. If the goal is to increase customer satisfaction, you can actually look at rewarding both the team and the individuals. Look at the individuals who have performed exceedingly well and provided an excellent service. You may want to reward and recognize them. While as the team as a whole, you can reward them for achieving a high satisfaction score in itself. So that's one point. The second thing is also about balancing out the R&R to suit the person or the situation at hand. Like for example, maybe you could look at formal R&R, mechanisms like incentives, promotions for outstanding or meet expectations kind of performance. When it comes to team achievements, maybe you could look at more of team awards or social recognition, peer-to-peer recognition, the celebrations that you have on the workflow. These are some of the things that can actually help promote that collaboration within the teams as well. So to me, all in all, I would say is that how well are you able to quantify the measurable objectives of rewards and recognition? How well are they aligned, and how well are you making them clear or clarified across the organization is the key, and of course trying to address it to suit the best needs of the individual as well as the team.
True. Well said. Dedeepya, here again, I think our listeners would want to know the challenges that takes place when introducing rewards and recognition programs in an organization. So what challenges or pitfalls should organizations be aware of when implementing rewards and recognition programs? And also, Dedeepya, since you're here, it would be wonderful to know it from you, the ways to mitigate those challenges.
Sure, please. I think we've discussed this in our conversation right now itself. So for the benefit of repeating myself, I think once again, as the biggest challenge that organizations face is, especially the employees, is they don't really understand how they fit into the overall big picture that the organization is driving towards. So as long as we are able to provide that clarity, and that is done through alignment with the organizational objective and values, I think that solves that purpose or that particular challenge. The second one is all about the subjectivity versus the objective evaluation. So how objectively are we able to evaluate the value that a person or an individual or a team brings to the table? How well are we creating those measures and metrics and making it available for all of them, and providing that clarity and also consistency in objectively evaluating the KRAs or the KPIs is something that's the key. So that's the second part of it. The third part of it, which we already discussed, is the entire aspect of personalization. Today, when we talk about R&R, while there, as a consultant, I see a lot of organizations put in a lot of effort towards trying to understand the employee personas and trying to bring in those personalizations. While I do see a whole lot of companies, another 50% of the companies who kind of create an R&R strategy and leave it vague or make it applicable for the entire organization as a whole as one standard offering, which doesn't really work out. So personalization is something that's something that organizations definitely need to look into. The last part, which I already spoke about, is the entire part of agility. And this is one of the biggest pitfalls, wherein we say that we've created an R&R strategy, we believe that it's going to be sustainable, and let's work on it or keep it like that for the next 2 years, 3 years down the line. That doesn't really work. Today, given the scenario and the marketplace, we need to be constantly reviewing our own R&R strategy, take feedback from multiple stakeholders to see whether it's working, not working, and accordingly see how well we can integrate that feedback and refine our own R&R strategy is something that's the need of the hour, and that is something that organizations and HR leaders definitely need to work upon. So that's my take on this, please.
Okay. So Dedeepya, we are arriving at the end of today's episode. But before we let you go, there's one last thing that both our listeners and I would love to know your take on, and that's what matrix or methods can organizations use to measure the effectiveness of their rewards and recognition program. So it's particularly the matrix that organizations can use. And also at the same time, platforms like all those rewards and recognition platforms, is there any particular suggestion that you'd want to give to them?
Sure. Again, this is yet another tricky thing, like any other ROI of a program, faces, especially when we are talking about talent management interventions or HR programs. It's very difficult to actually attribute an ROI, saying that the impact or the delta shift that has happened is because of this particular R&R or maybe any other OD intervention. But nevertheless, I think something that I see working in few of the organizations is definitely the basic symbol of program adoption. So that's number one. Yet another thing I think that would work, especially in such a case as R&R, is wherein individual managers or individual businesses and teams can actually measure the impact analysis, whether it's in terms of productivity, whether it's in terms of engagement scores, absenteeism, retention rates, or as important as the behavioral changes in itself, before and after implementing the R&R intervention for your own teams. So this could be a short way of trying to figure out whether the R&R intervention that you have put forth for your team is working or not working.
Yes.
The third thing is definitely the entire bit on pulse surveys, the ENPS scores, the engagement surveys, and as simple as having those over the coffee conversations or taking one-on-one feedback also helps us to understand whether to actually get the general pulse of the workplace to see whether they are liking what's being put in place or not. So these are some of the ways of how we can actually measure the effectiveness of our programs.
Okay. Yes. So, Dedeepya, we have reached the end of today's podcast. Do you have any message for our listeners? Our listeners would be delighted to hear it from you. Also, our audience might want to stay in touch with you post this podcast. So it would be great if you could tell them how they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Would love to keep in connect. I am there on LinkedIn. You can Google out, search for my name, which is Dedeepya Ajith John. That's the best way of keeping in connect. And I would be more than happy to address any further queries or maybe have any other further discussions on the topic as well with any of the listeners, please.
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure to have you as our guest today. Your insights and expertise have been invaluable, and we are grateful for the time you have taken to share your knowledge with our listeners. So Dedeepya, thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Sanjeevani. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.